The executive branch of government. Voices from the past. Harry S. Truman, the day after FDR's death. I don't know whether you fellows ever had a load of hay fall on you, but when they told me yesterday what had happened, I felt the moon, the stars, and all the planets had fallen on me. The executive branch not only is made up of the president and the vice president, it also includes the cabinet and government agencies. It is written out in Article 2 of the Constitution. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. Upon being sworn in, presidents take the presidential oath. Their terms are restricted to 4 years. They're allowed no more than 2 terms, and this is based off George Washington's presidency. He set the precedence for that. However, FDR had 4 terms, but after his death, there was an amendment that made this an official rule, that only 2 terms or 10 years in office. Qualifications: you must formally be a natural-born citizen, at least 35 years, at least 14 years in the U.S. as resident. Informal military background is always a good thing. Executive experience is good, and they look at your education, occupations, and how well you work with people. The main powers of the chief executive are to appoint and remove executive branch officials, to issue executive orders, and to maintain executive privilege. The Constitution gives President the power to appoint and fill top posts in the executive branch. Some of these are checked by the Senate, such as federal judges, cabinet members, ambassadors to foreign nations, and top military advisors. The president can also remove them at any time, with the exception of federal judges, which Congress can impeach. An executive order is a formal rule or regulation that instructs executive branch officials how to carry out their job. The president can withhold information from Congress or a court. Checks and balances review. The executive branch is given the power to carry out the laws. It has the following checks over the legislative branch: veto power, the ability to call special sessions of Congress. They can recommend legislation. They can appeal to the people concerning legislation, and more. The executive branch has the following checks over judicial power. President appoints the Supreme Court and other federal judges. Diplomatic powers. The president acts as a foreign policy leader and formulates the nation's plan and other procedures with dealing with other countries. They have the ability to negotiate treaties, which must be approved by a 2/3 Senate vote. And they also have the power to negotiate with foreign countries. This is called diplomacy. Executive agreements. These are agreements between the president and foreign governments. Diplomatic recognition. This is recognizing the legitimacy of a foreign country. The president also acts as the commander-in-chief over the military. While Congress has the power to declare war, the president has the power to station forces. Unofficial roles. The president also acts as a chief of state, the party leader, and the chief citizen. Removal from office. The president shall be removed from office if convicted in an impeachment trial for crimes, treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. This also applies to the vice president. 2 presidents were impeached: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton. Richard Nixon resigned before impeachment, and most currently, President Donald Trump was also impeached. None of these impeached presidents, Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, or Donald Trump, were removed from office. Line of succession. The order of successors to the presidency, if the president is unable to serve, are as follows: the vice president, the Speaker of the House, the President pro tempore of the Senate, and the Secretary of State. The line continues by each of the 14 heads of the cabinet departments in order of which their offices were created by Congress. The vice president, first line in succession after the president. The role has changed much from the earlier vice presidents. Their duties are to preside over the Senate, votes in deadlocks in Congress. They have a role in the 25th Amendment to help decide the question of presidential disability, and to debate whether a VP is an executive or a legislative position or both. Federal bureaucracy, a large, complex administrative structure that handles the everyday business of the federal government. Bureaucrats are civil servants who work for the federal bureaucracy. Federal government is the largest organization in the country that consists of four main groups: the White House staff, the Executive Office of the President, the executive departments, and independent agencies. The White House staff consists of around 400 people. There's a chief of staff. Obviously, this information is no longer current, but the chief of staff acts as the president's most loyal aide. They're the gatekeeper who can control who talks to the president and who does not. They also provide guidance and advice on issues. The Executive Office of the President houses about 1,800 employees to perform a variety of specialized tasks. For example, there's the Office of Management and Budget, which aids the president in developing a budget for Congress, and the NSC, which advises the president of foreign and defense policies. Executive departments. They carry out the work of the government in broad areas of public policy. The president's cabinet. Different cabinet departments include State, Treasury, Interior, Agriculture, Justice, Commerce, Labor, Defense, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, Transportation, Energy, Education, Veterans Affairs, and Homeland Security. Independent agencies act as establishments created by Congress to address concerns that go beyond the scope of ordinary legislation. These agencies are responsible for keeping the government and economy running smoothly. Regulatory commissions are independent of all three branches. They're impartial, they're appointed by the president and approved by the Senate, and unlike the bureaucrats, they do not report to the president and cannot be fired or removed by the president. They also impact our daily lives.